Hey guys, so we're in section 3.4 and let's see. I'm on page 263, so we're looking at some of the applications, and then this will finish out this section. So now we have a couple of applications of variation, so I'll just read the first one to you. On a given planet, the weight of an object varies directly with the mass of the object. Suppose that an object whose mass is 6 kilograms weighs 60 newtons. Find the weight of an object whose mass is 10 kilograms. So mass and weight are actually they're two different measurements, and so in this problem what we're trying to do is we want you to come up with the variation equation, but now in the context. So as I look at this, so it says the weight of an object varies directly with the mass of an object. So how do we interpret that? Well, before we were giving you letters, and now you basically have to determine what letters should you use. So why don't I just call weight W, and the mass of an object, we'll just call that M. So I could review this. The weight of an object, so W, varies directly with the mass of an object, so M. So this will actually get set up in the exact same way, but now you just kind of have to keep track of what things mean. So to vary directly, this means W equals Km. And then it says, suppose an object whose mass is 6 kilograms weighs 60 newtons. So now we can actually fill that in, right? So my weight is 60 and my mass is 6. So if I go through and I solve for K, I will get that my K just equals 10. So now I can restate my equation. So this will be W equals 10 times M. So now it says find the weight of an object whose mass is 10 kilograms. So now I just have to plug in that 10, right? So this will end up becoming 100 newtons. So this is really the idea behind a lot of these applications. So you just have to kind of break them down and decide what letters you want to use, and then pay attention to what everything stands for. So what I want you to do is pause the video and give example 4 a try. Hit play when you're ready. So in reading this over, it says the current passing through a conductor varies inversely with the resistance. So this is really telling me like all the stuff that I need to know, but maybe I don't know what letters I want to assign yet. So suppose that when the current is 29 amps, the resistance is 10 ohms. So what is the resistance when the current is, we'll just say 5A. So now you can kind of see, so current goes with amps, right? And then resistance goes with, so I'll just highlight or underline this in another color, resistance will go with 10 ohms. So now that we kind of know that, let's go back and read this first sentence one more time. The current passing through a conductor varies inversely with the resistance. So what do I want to define my letters as? Well, we have the current passing through a conductor. We'll call this C, and then varies inversely with the resistance, we'll call that R. So now I've got enough information to set this up. I've got C varies inversely, so that's going to be K divided by R. And now I can just kind of plow ahead with this, right? So I know that my current will be 29 when my resistance is 10, so I can solve this. So I will multiply each side by 10 to get that K is equal to 290. And then I restate my equation. And so now it can say, what is the resistance when the current is 5? So if I go back and look at this now, be careful. This is saying that the current is 5. So that's actually my C, right? So there's a little bit of a plot twist in this. So I'm going to fill in 5 equals C and then solve this equation. So how do I do that? Well, you probably want to get R, it's still a fraction, right? So you want to get R out of there, so I'll just multiply both sides by R so that I end up canceling out the R's. And so now I've got 5R equals 290. And now I can finish this by just dividing both sides by 5. And ultimately, I get that this is a resistance of 58. Okay, so that's one problem. So let's just work on this last one. Oops. Suppose that the amount of time it takes to build a highway varies directly with the length of the highway and inversely with the number of workers. Suppose it takes 200 workers 3 weeks to build 2 miles of highway. How many miles of highway could 250 workers build in 6 weeks? So I will just give you a little hint that this one talks about both direct and inverse variation, so be careful when you set this up. But pause the video, give this a try, hit play when you're ready. Okay, so in this one, this is talking about the amount of time, let's see, I'll do this actually in red. The amount of time it takes to build a highway varies directly with the length of the highway and then inversely with the number of workers. So there are really all of my letters. So we're talking about the time it takes to build a highway. Why don't we call that T? And we know that that varies directly with the length of the highway. So we'll call that L. And then we know that this needs to also vary inversely with the number of workers. So let's see, for workers, maybe we could just make that a W. So there's my equation, and now let's continue on with this. Suppose it takes 200 workers 3 weeks to build 2 miles of highway. So notice what's actually being given here. We've got this part here, this is talking about the 200 workers. 3 weeks, that's talking about time, so that's going to be going into my T. And then 2 miles of highway, so that's talking about the length here. So if I fill all of those pieces in, this is 3 equals K times 2 divided by 200. So here's what I actually need to solve. So I can start this by multiplying each side by 200. Cancel those out. So now I get 600 equals 2K. And then divide both sides by 2 so that I get K equals 300, and now I can restate my equation. So this is T equals 300L over W. Okay, so now it says how many miles of highway could 250 workers build in 6 weeks? So just as a reminder, so 250 workers, that's going to be my W. 6 weeks is talking about time, so that's actually going to go in for T. So if I set this up, then I have 6 equals, let's see, having a problem with my pen here, 6 equals 300. So I'm trying to figure out the length, right? So I'm going to leave that as just L, divided by 250. So now here's what I need to solve. So I will go ahead and multiply each side by 250. So ultimately I get, let's see, 1500 equals 300L. Divide each side by 300, and you will ultimately get that L equals just 5. And what does this stand for? This is 5 miles, right? And so that'll do it for this section. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video.